What's up, everyone? Welcome to the official first episode of Higher Ambitions. I know a while back I posted a Grand Rapids trip kind of like recap, and we called it Higher Ambitions Episode 1 with the intentions of this kind of being like the raw, unfiltered take on really what it's like building a cannabis company, being a cannabis college student, and just kind of living the cannabis lifestyle, kind of like a little bit more casual or laid back behind the scenes version of the Higher Thoughts podcast, which is supposed to be more like a deep dive, higher level conversation or educational podcast. So really, I don't know what this will end up looking like over the long term. We're going to play around with it. Definitely let me know in the comments if you like this format, and we can definitely keep doing more of it. Over the past year or so, I've been talking about vlogging the higher state journey, and then we would drop a video here or there, but nothing really came of it. But now that life's kind of settled down a little bit more, I think I should be able to dedicate a little bit more time to this, and it should be pretty fun, really having the Higher Thoughts podcast being something where I could have a educational segment and talk about either chemistry, science, research, or business stuff, and then even, bring friends or industry professionals on to have kind of that higher level thoughts or higher level talks about what's going on in cannabis. And then, really Higher Ambitions is documenting the everyday life of, kind of like what we're doing here on campus or in the business. And I kind of struggled with names for a little bit on it. Honestly, naming's not my strong suit. ChatGPT helped me out on this one. But really Higher Ambitions was like just kind of vlogging the higher level stuff that we do, because not many cannabis industry workers will travel 5 hours just to go to a quick 2-hour networking event, referencing that Grand Rapids trip that we took, or doing some of the stuff that we do at the university. So we try to be humble in the things we do, but at the same time definitely very ambitious and doing a lot of cool big shit. So why not document it and vlog it? I can't guarantee that it's going to be like a every week or very regular thing, but when I can get down to it and there's something interesting to document, I'm going to start trying to do that. So definitely let me know if you have any ideas for stuff you want to see. But really kind of getting into this, technically episode 2, but realistically episode 1, kind of covering some founder updates from myself and Jackson, just kind of telling everyone what's going on at the higher state side of things, let you guys know what's going on at the university as much as I can, try to give some behind the scenes clips or glimpses. I'm sure I'll find some B-roll or some cool stuff editing this, and that might spark some ideas for future versions of this. Hell, maybe it does become a quick little 20-minute weekly update or something. I don't fucking know. But what I plan for this specific episode is really just kind of catching up what's happened since episode 1, that Grand Rapids trip back in early or mid-February. And, kind of really going into that, I guess we should recap. In February, we went down to Grand Rapids. It was about a 5-hour drive from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan to attend Catalyst GR. This was the first event put on by Kyle, which was a connection that Jackson, our co-founder at Higher State and really just good buddy of mine, he connected with Kyle a while back and invited us to come, said that if we showed up that we'd get to ask a question to the panel. So lo and behold, we just made a road trip out of it, ended up skipping class for the day, grabbed a couple of our buddies with us, and I'll put a link to that video in the description, but it was a really fun trip. But beyond that, I think we got a little bit more value out of it than maybe we thought. And that's really because Kyle was really kind of blown away with just the fact that we made that trip down there, which for me, it's really just a fun road trip. I love doing shit like that. And if you're going to invite us to that, yeah, we're definitely going to take you up on that. We love networking and connecting with new people. So especially if you're going to dangle that bait in front of us, like, hey, there's an opportunity for you to, potentially ask a question. Yeah, sure. Why not? So, through that though, Kyle invited us on the Respect My Region Midwest podcast, which is a bigger, YouTube account. And that was definitely a really good time. It was my first kind of like real legitimate cannabis podcast. Was on, the Periodic Effects Cannabis Business and Science Podcast. I think it was the full name. A guy named Wayne, I forget his last name, but it was one of like the OG cannabis podcasts that I actually really kind of had going on in the background when I was working in the extraction labs back in the day, and taught myself a lot of interesting just chemistry or medicinal stuff from that. And so Wayne, if you're somehow able to find this and listening to this, thank you for all those learning lessons and all those hundreds of hours of podcast episodes that was able to kind of watch and make the day go by quicker. But anyways, he invited me on his podcast. I don't know the episode off the top of my head. It was like 170 something. I'm sure I'll link that down too. But we had like a half-hour talk about the cannabis chemistry degree that I was in. I think I was a sophomore at the time, so I still didn't really know the whole program a lot, but that podcast was actually really interesting because when I sent it out to my advisor and my professors, kind of like showing, hey, look at what I did. I'm trying to help market this thing, and are you proud of this? And my response was like, yo, no, you're not allowed to do podcasts or talk about your degree. You're going to piss off some donors. Take that shit down. And that's a whole nother story, but that was actually kind of like one of the many sticks that broke the camel's back when it came to actually drafting votes of no confidence in our interim president, interim provost, and our board of trustees at the university. We actually passed it. It was a big thing. Like the faculty union had our backs on this, brought us in for meetings, which was like the first time that had ever happened. And through student government, we had passed these votes of no confidence. I don't want to say that it effectively led to the removal of that interim president, but let's just say that in the candidate search for the new president, it didn't bode well for him. So that was just a really cool thing that we did. But that first podcast with Wayne on the Periodic Effects podcast, that kind of sparked a little thing at the university, but I don't really count it as like my first real cannabis podcast because personally, as much as I thought that I was informed going into it on the degree and stuff like that, I certainly was nowhere near as knowledgeable on the inner workings of the university and the specifics of the degree as I am now. So I wouldn't say it was a bad podcast by any means, but I don't think it was one of my best. It was also filmed just like on a phone call, so I don't think my audio was that great. And funny enough, you can't actually find that podcast on YouTube for whatever reason. I don't know why. When I was doing a search a while back to try and find it, I wasn't able to find it. So I don't know. Maybe it did get removed by the university. I'm not trying to say that or insinuate anything. I don't know why I said that, but it's just, I thought it was funny that it was a big issue. Thankfully now the university has heard our position on students being able to have the freedom of speech and talk about their experiences, but beyond that, market their degree program. And that side of the admin is long gone. The sentiment has changed much for the better, where we've been asked to be in videos that they kind of professionally put up, and it was kind of fun being in like little B-roll parts of the little promo videos, whatever. I'll probably have a little B-roll of that going right now, actually. But yeah, I just said because they got better, which was good. But beyond that, like meeting Kyle at the Grand Rapids event, and then, you know, him really seeing how enthusiastic we are about the university. Obviously, a lot of people in this industry, if you show that you're willing to like provide value, show up, and really just, if you fuck with them, they fuck with you. So that's really a good connection that we got out of that, and a good friend too. Like Kyle's a good dude. I love hanging out and, you know, chatting with him. Wish that we could hang out more in person, obviously, but we're a couple of hours away, and was hoping to go to his event in mid-May. I was down state visiting family for my birthday. He had an event going on in Grand Rapids, which was just a couple hours away. I was going to hop over there, say hi for the day, and shoot back, but had some stuff pop up, so wasn't able to, unfortunately. On top of that, though, the Grand Rapids trip, there was 2 speakers that were pretty involved in the infused drink side of things, and we started talks with them about pursuing some white label deals. Now, they haven't gone really anywhere super crazy as of yet. Jackson's kind of taking the main lead on that project when it comes to research and development, formulating these drinks that we want to bring to market, and finding a white label producer to actually do that. We got one step closer, at least, where we got some good connections, potentially bringing one of them on board as a like key advisor for the company, just since we recognize that we've never done drinks before, and I really think that you need to build a team of experts around you. You can't do it alone in this industry. So really, I know I've been kind of going on a while about this, but to summarize the Grand Rapids trip, we got, first and foremost, some content. We got some fun times, met a couple good, cool people. We got asked to be on the Respect My Region Midwest podcast, and that was a really fun opportunity. It's what I'll call my first real podcast, because it was actually a really good podcast showing. I couldn't get the mics to work, so we just recorded with our computer audio, and Joey had some computer fan going on in the background, so audio was kind of mid, but we got a lot of really good clips that I've been posting to the various social media accounts, so that was good. And then we got, obviously, the networking connections when it comes to the drinks, and a potential advisor out of that. So that just goes to show that 5-hour drive was actually worth it, and technically it was 10 hours round trip, but yeah, so really then moving into like March was pretty quiet, had some health issues going on, and just kind of battled through that. Didn't really get much building done. I was just kind of focused on school, classwork. Moving into April, had a quick trip down to Florida, again, just kind of on the back of some health issues. Needed to run down there, visit some family that I had actually lost touch with for a decent amount of time and had just started reconnecting with. But it was really good to escape. I hadn't been down to Florida in many years, so the sunshine was definitely well needed, especially after the brutal winter we had up here in Sault Ste. Marie. I don't know what the total snowfall was, but I think it was the second or third snowiest winter in Sault Ste. Marie history. It was very close to being the first, if I remember right. It was like 13, 14 feet of snow, and it didn't start until probably, well, right around the time we got back from MJ BizCon. So that would have been like early December. And that's kind of crazy when you think about like that amount of snow falling in that quick of a time. But yeah, so winter was brutal, kicked my ass. That explains the no content. All right, sorry, I had to go deal with the cat and then the insulin pump, and it would make a bunch of noise and shit, but I think we should be good, I hope. But anyways, going into April, shot down to Florida, connected with family, got to kind of catch up with my brother who does a lot of stuff with AI and technology, which is great because got a ton of ideas that we want to really kind of bring to market when it comes to AI and kind of software as a service. And then also really just developing like open source tools to drop for free, and really excited to kind of even develop some of those live with you guys. But that was a really just good trip to disconnect. Came back up and actually had Jackson drive my car down from Sault Ste. Marie to Ann Arbor, where I've got some family in that area. Had a ride from Detroit Airport, where I flew up from Florida, landed in Detroit, got back with my family for a little bit, and met up with Jackson for HashBash. So HashBash was a really good time. That was, fifth or sixth for me. I kind of lost track, but for those of you guys that don't know, this has been going on since like the 60s in Ann Arbor. It was originally like a political rally for John Sinclair when he was arrested for cannabis possession. And it was really like a reform rally. It was a protest held on the what's called the Diag. It's kind of like the downtown campus campus square, I guess. The middle of campus, University of Michigan. And it's been happening pretty much every year since, I think. And this year, if I remember right, Tommy Chong was out there. We didn't get to see him speak, but we got to catch a couple of the speakers. Jackson got to interview Jamie Lowell, which was really kind of cool to see. And it's just a really good time. You know, you got a couple thousand people coming down there just celebrating the plant, celebrating regulation reform. There's a lot of activist groups out there, vendors out there. It's just a good time altogether. And then from there, we shot back up to the Sioux and got back to classes for a couple weeks. We had a trip out to Marquette for the Northern Michigan University. I think it was the Great Lakes Collegiate College Collaboration something in cannabis. It's like a small little expo or conference that they put on. I've got a bunch of footage from it. I know I've dropped a couple clips from that. I've been meaning to put out the full video. At this point, I'm kind of toying with if it's too late or not, but honestly, fuck it. I'll just probably drop it as a recap, because why not? It was a good time though. There was a couple really cool speakers, abstracts, had Ian Oswald there, and we got to talk with him afterwards just about the research that I've been doing around cannabis vapes. So that was really cool. And he actually sent out some terpenes for us to utilize in future studies that we want to perform. So thank you so much for that, abstracts. We really appreciate that. It goes a long way, especially a small college like Lake State. We really don't have a massive budget, and terpenes are expensive. Honestly, my research is kind of racked up a little bit more than the normal student research bill. So it just felt really good to be able to kind of let the university know, like, hey, got some terpenes for you guys. You don't have to worry about it for when we do these future studies. So that was really cool. Beyond that, the CRA director, Brian Hanna, was there. The CRA is like our regulatory body. And it was cool because I asked a question and had kind of briefly introduced myself. And he was like, yo, you don't need to do that. I know who you are, just strictly from LinkedIn. So it just felt really good seeing that LinkedIn was paying off. I really liked that. Beyond that, though, Higher State didn't really see really much going on in terms of work. We had met a couple times with those kind of drink advisors or potential advisors to get the ball rolling on that, but ultimately nothing really ever came of it. Just got busy with school, and it really sucks because I think that speed is everything, especially in a startup, and double especially when you're in a hyper growth environment like cannabis. So that I don't feel good about the progress on Higher State, really Q1 or Q2, if we're being completely honest. To recap, really, we had around this time last year put our heads together on making a business plan so that we could start pitching Higher State. And at that time, it was 2,000 plants and a processing lab. we had brought a third co-founder on, and through kind of his ideas or mentioning that we should look into double tier, we kind of put together a kind of cost benefit analysis, crunch the numbers and ROI, and show that, yeah, you invest a little bit more in the double tier and it'll actually pay itself off quicker than the single tier. So redid everything, and ultimately put together this like 60 something page long financial viability analysis to just prove to investors like, hey, there's no way you're gonna lose your money here. Not financial advice, but all the fucking numbers check out. We had multiple different CPAs look it over, and they were blown away by it. One of them, I don't know, he was just like, to basically put it like, I get paid a couple $100,000 a year to do this, and this is fucking insane. You guys are, working on your undergrad right now. What the fuck? This is awesome. I was like, yeah, been in the industry a while. I know every single cost that's involved in growing and extraction. We put it out here, and we just basically justified if we spent a little bit more on something, why, and showing spreadsheets of like, hey, this is why we put another $100,000 into our water system, because after year, I forget what it was, but I think it was like after year 2, you're saving, it was like a couple 100,000 gallons of water a year, and that racked up pretty good savings when aggregated over the long run, which we always want to play the long game here. So it was just like, we put together all these documents, put all this work into this 4,000 plant processing 4,000 plant grow processing lab, and then really doing a lot of research on the back of that, R&D, making intellectual property processes, fine-tuning stuff, optimizing shit, developing tech. It was kind of like a skunkworks labs model. And come December of 2024, we realized the writing on the wall was just like, we're not going to get funding for this, whether it's all the factors going on in cannabis investing, or all the factors going on geopolitically, macroeconomically speaking. It was just fucking the worst time you could have ever picked to try to launch a cannabis company that was looking for $14 million. So we had to pivot, and that's where we were like, let's go drinks and tech. We know that drinks, a white label deal, can be had relatively cheap, if not free, depending on how you structure that deal. And software tech, with a lot of the AI no code or low code tools, you can bring on a couple co-founders for sweat equity, or structure some sort of payment plan, find some way to raise capital to pay for them, or just develop it ourselves. And we had all these tech ideas that we knew could bring in either short-term cash flow, or sell it as a big ticket item to the highest bidder. So we set out really on that, and then life got busy, just shit happened, and fast forward to where we're at today, I think we're kind of almost considering another pivot here, because personally my year's worth of savings is starting to run out. But when we had originally done this plan back in May of last year, we had envisioned having funding by December, and then really starting to get into the build around right now. But I just didn't realize the extent of how dried up the capital had gotten. So now really what we're faced with, Jackson took an internship over the summer in Minnesota, working with their regulatory body over there to help develop some of their testing protocols, if I understand it right. So super excited for him on that. But of course, it completely takes him away from higher state. I know he said that he's should be able to keep up with everything and not drop the ball, but I don't want to shit on him because I love the kid to death, but nothing's been done. So I don't really know what's going on in kind of that aspect, which it is what it is. But ultimately, like, there's a lot of experience that he can gain there, and a lot of networking connections that he can gain. And if we're really talking drinks, which was kind of the project that he was really excited about, drinks and supplements, Minnesota definitely has the better model for drinks than Michigan. So ultimately, he's probably better served over in Minnesota for the summer than back in Michigan trying to build higher state, which it was really just kind of white labeling deals. But really kind of I'm at the point where I don't want to get a 9 to 5 job. I'm not opposed to it, like starting to do some job searching and stuff like that. But really starting to think about doing consulting, because that was one of the things that when we really talk about this giant house of brands model that is Higher State Brands, we really saw it as this massive conglomerate. And I know it's kind of bold to say that you're going to touch every little segment or sector of the market, but there is massive companies that do that in other industries. And if you hire the right fucking people and structure the company correctly, it can be done. So when we talk about like maximizing every revenue stream, or at least exploring every revenue stream within the cannabis industry, consulting was one that always appealed to me, especially because I love kind of education, teaching, and I really like kind of looking at a problem, seeing if I can optimize it, or trying to find a solution to complex problems. I think that's really also what like appeals to me when it comes to research, like on the chemistry and science side of things. It's posing a question and saying, I think this might be the best way to go about it, aka your hypothesis. And then it's stress testing or pressure testing that hypothesis through data, experiments, and all that shit. The scientific method, a lot of that applies to consulting in kind of a way. I guess I never really thought of it like that before. So that's kind of cool, making that connection right there. But really having nearly a decade in the industry, have picked up a lot of different tips along the way and have seen a lot of different scenarios. I've done a lot of stuff on the retail side. I've done work in grows. I was a caregiver myself. Obviously the extraction labs, the university degree. So like there's a lot of different areas that it can offer value, and starting to kind of explore what consulting would look like just to bring in some cash. Because as much as I want to, focus full time on Higher State, I also have the reality of bills need to be paid. I've got some chronic health issues that demands medication and doctor visits, and those aren't free. So when it comes to like Higher State, the update or vlog worthy content, I guess, for that is really just unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I don't know, looking like another strategic pivot, which I know it probably doesn't bode well in the eyes of investors. Who are like, oh, these kids started at 2,000 plants, then 4,000, then they were doing drinks and tech, and now it's consulting. Like, fucking pick a lane and stick with it. But it's like, I guess there was true justifications for each one. Like, we had tried the 2,000 plants. Data had showed us that 4,000 was better. And we had tried 4,000. We had pitched to over 200 investors, and just put hundreds of hours into really stress testing our scenarios and looking at every single aspect of this facility build, the design, bringing in experts like Sam from Urban Grow. Like, I think we really had a damn good model and a really fucking good facility design. It was just not the right time. So it's like you can push down that hill forever and hope you get that needle in a haystack investor, but that's a lot of big what ifs. And we saw potential with drinks and tech. Self-admittedly, we maybe dropped the ball, fumbled it a little bit when it comes to managing time between startup and school. But those are all learning lessons that you can implement down the road to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And it also goes to show, like, you can kind of put in those seasons of work where you grind for 120 to 140 hours for like 2-3 months straight, and then shift focus and redirect. So I think over the summer, I've got one class to finish up and I'll be officially graduated, but a lot of the focus is going to be on, one, getting some consulting clients, just because we need short-term revenue. If I have to go work a 9 to 5 for a different grow lab or even a bud tender job at this point, that's going to really take away from Higher State more than just offering consulting on the side. And ultimately, consulting was something that we had potentially explored as a revenue stream anyways. So yeah, why not? But speaking of graduation, in May was able to walk, which was really cool. It's been a little over 5 years. Well, I guess it was 5 years in the making, and it was something I never really envisioned. Growing up, had really kind of wanted to go into the military, but type 1 diabetes had taken that away from me, probably for the better, if we're being completely honest there. And so never really saw kind of like college as the path forward. At one point in time, I was like toying around with an entrepreneurship degree, but my dad actually gave really wise wisdom like for me. And he was like, what are you going to do with an entrepreneurship degree? You're going to spend 4 years in there to learn how to do a business. Why don't you just spend 4 years building a fucking business and save all that money? And what's your backup plan if your business doesn't take off and you have to go into the workforce? You're going to go market yourself against a competitive job pool as an entrepreneurship major. Like, the entrepreneur that's hiring you is going to look at that and laugh. So that really actually made a lot of good points, and is why I didn't do that entrepreneurship degree. And ultimately went into the fire academy after high school graduation. And then after that, did the fire department thing, work some odd jobs because the fire department's just paid on call, kind of like volunteer basically. So never saw myself as a like scholar college student, didn't graduate high school with a great GPA, and certainly struggled the first couple years up here, having to like relearn how to learn, having that kind of couple year gap between graduation, high school graduation, and starting up the university. It was May of 2020, so COVID was going on. That was not fun. The start of that definitely made it interesting, and then my health issues just compounded things, didn't help. But found actually a lot of love for academia and found a love of learning through that degree. And, honestly, we'll make a bunch of episodes talking about that more in depth. But, yeah, it was something I didn't really expect would ever happen. And so it was really crazy walking across that stage. I don't know. I could talk about that for forever. And I know this is getting a little bit long here. So, I guess other updates that are vlog worthy for this higher ambitions. My senior research. So every cannabis chemistry student gets the chance to either do like a literature review, or they can do a senior capstone research project. Some of them have gotten published in the past, and mine, I'm hoping to kind of go down that same route. It was a grind to get that done in time just because of all the shit that was going on. And that's a whole nother story, because I had my research project kind of changed 3 different times, and it was just ultimately a beautiful mess, because I'm really happy it ended up how it did. I think we should have some pretty interesting findings that I really hope in the next few weeks to be able to kind of start wrapping up my writing and getting into editing with my PI, which is a principal investigator. It's kind of like the head of your research project. It's the professor that you work with. And we should be submitting it into ACS Omega, hopefully in the next couple months. But it was looking into different polymer interactions with vape carts. So looking into different polyesters, some microplastics, some really interesting stuff that hadn't really been looked at. I know I had talked a little bit about it on my social media, going all the way back, since right around MJ BizCon. So like I've been kind of softly talking about it, but this project's been going on for a little over a year now, and it should be really cool. So that should be dropped soon, and once it is at least submitted to publication and in the peer review process, I should be able to talk a little bit more about it. I just got to kind of be a little bit careful with what I talk about right now, since I've got myself in trouble with social media and kind of sharing some of the stuff that goes on at the university. So, it was all with good intentions and stuff like that. But needless to say, they probably want me to keep it on the down low. I was given permission to talk about it a little bit, so we'll probably open it up here in the near future, and I cannot wait to make a bunch of videos on that. I've got so many ideas planned. But yeah, really, like, that's all I have for this like higher ambitions vlog. Going forward with this, I'm sure it'll be more just casual vlog updates. One of the things I want to do is chat with chat, and it's just kind of like showing how I use AI and ChatGPT in my day-to-day cannabis life, whether it's branding, marketing, social media content, planning, or designing calculators for like return on investment of a processing lab, or maybe crunching numbers of, is a 2,000 versus a 4,000 plant grow still the better choice in 2025 compared to when we did it last year. It's those type of things, and really kind of building this higher state brands with you guys. So I know this was more strictly like a catch up, and it was over the past like 3-4 months. I don't anticipate that being as long in the future. It'll probably be like every other week or so, maybe once a month, kind of just general recap, not this 3-month. Apologies if it got a little boring there. But yeah, this is really just more casual, laid back rant. We might open this up to live streams down the road. As you can see, we've got a set change behind us. We're no longer in my old office, which was right above us. The old office was also my closet. That now got changed into my girlfriend Emma's craft room, and it just worked out really well. So got a lot more space here to kind of flex our wings and record. Don't have to worry about my closet being in the background. But with that being said, I'm still kind of playing around with how the desk is laid out, where the camera is, lighting situation, stuff like that. The other thing is, unfortunately, kind of have to only record at night. So I don't know, we'll play around with different lighting options. I've only got 2 kind of shitty, cheap LED lights right now off of Amazon, but I'm sure eventually, especially if we can get some consulting gigs, we'll get some more actual lights. I got to rip down that key light that I put up in the office. It was like an old Ace Hardware shop light that you would use for like working on cars. It was originally on a tripod, disassembled it and put it on the ceiling. And we're going to move that down here, put it back on its tripod, and just set it up for probably just putting it over in the background there and just light this up a little bit better, especially because there's no ceiling light in here. But I guess I forgot. I don't know why I get on these weird rants. Apologies. We're going to get better at this. This is only like technically episode 2 of Higher Ambitions, but if we look at like all the videos, there's only a couple of them. So we got to put in reps. But I'm sorry. I got to record at night because we got this crazy fucking construction going on behind us where they're actually like doing blasting to break up the road and pull that out. Why? I don't know. It's like, why can't you just use a normal excavator to rip the thing up? But no, we got to do some explosions, and it shakes the whole house, freaks the cat out, and it just makes it, recording would be impossible is what I'm trying to say here. So apologies if the lighting situation is not amazing. We're going to improve every single episode though. So thank you for watching. Again, I don't know when I'll be back next time with Higher Ambitions, but I do plan to be back with a Higher Thoughts episode in the next day or 2. It'll be a solo episode with myself being a little bit more educational focused. And then later in the week, we're going to have Jackson on again. It'll be, we'll see if it ends up being a Higher Thoughts podcast where it's more obviously like at higher level conversations, strategy and like educational, or if it ends up being a higher ambitions episode where it's kind of like this, updating on life recently, kicking it, just kind of, talking about the big shit going on in our lives. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I can't promise you either way. You guys know how it is. Life gets busy. I'm going to try to get better at posting content though, because I'm starting to see the results pay off, and that just fuels the fire. I promise you, like, I've had ambitions and wants to do this for a while now, and like racked up 4 or 5 terabytes worth of fucking higher ambitions vlog back in 2024, but we never found time to throw those into videos and post them. Why? I don't know. We could have done it in the background. It's crazy. But it's like you learn. Now I carry that little bit of regret with me where it's like, fuck, I really wish I had found a way to at least better vlog this whole entire past year, because like I said, there's multiple terabytes worth of data that I've got on a hard drive right in front of me. I don't know, we might find a way to piece those together and still drop it. I'm sure it's still usable. It might not be, but yeah. We also are going to be filming a podcast with Miguel Torres. He connected with me on LinkedIn and reached out, said, want to come on? I was like, yeah, I'm down for more podcast. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, so apologies. I'm hoping sometime this week that the Effective Cannabis newsletter podcast that I filmed last week will drop. And then we also filmed the podcast earlier in the week with the Cannabis Research Coalition, just kind of going over my vape research as part of their educational cafe. Don't know when that's going to drop, so super excited to kind of see that come out. Best bet there'll be clips posted, and share more about that when that comes out. But if you made it this far, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I don't know why you put yourself through that torture. I hope it turns out to be interesting. I don't know if it is or not, but I shall see you next time.